On this month's episode of Out of the Office, find out where to find Pawpaw, Pirate Bush, and the best easy hikes in Roanoke County. Plus, hear my first-hand thoughts on Treetop Quest and find out the best events going on in September in Roanoke County. Welcome to Out of the Office. I'm your host, Poertner, bringing you ideas for your next Out of the Office adventure. On this month's episode, I'm joined by Alex North and Ryan Shazor from Parks, Recreation, and Tourism, and we're talking about how to get into hiking, some beginner tips, and highlighting some of the easier hikes in Roanoke County. Welcome, guys.
Glad to be here. Thanks for having us.
Thanks as always for having me. Welcoming Ryan to his podcast debut, I believe, right?
Yeah, podcast debut.
Yeah,
Nice.
So happy to be here. I can tell. Ryan, do you want to introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about what you do for the county?
Sure. So Ryan Shazor, again. I am a recreation specialist. I work specifically out of Explore Park. So I do a lot of the adventure programming that happens out there, and we do some off-site stuff as well. So you're leading hikes, doing some paddling programs, looking at bike stuff. And so that's kind of what my role is out at the old Explore Park.
Yeah, all sorts of stuff. So our focus today, like I said, is how to kind of get into hiking. And one of the things that I like about hiking compared to other outdoor activities is it's got a pretty low barrier to entry. Like biking and kayaking are fun, but they require expensive equipment, and hiking doesn't require that like $500 upfront fee. So Ryan, from your point of view, what are the kind of like essential items you need to get into hiking?
So obviously you want a really good pair of shoes, right? Always take care of your feet. Make sure that you've got something that is good and, cushiony if that's what you like. Make sure, especially if you're hiking, it's got really good tread. Tennis shoes are great, but however, you want to find something that's a little bit more aggressive and that's got something built kind of into that sole there. Also just a good pair of socks too. I think sometimes people kind of overlook that as like, you also want to be comfortable while you're doing things. So yeah, good pair of socks and shoes. You want a bag as far as like a backpack or a sling pack or something like that to kind of carry your gear in, water, snacks, a rain jacket. You never know what the forecast is going to be like. Those kinds of things. Also, as far as like pre-prep work, make sure you've got a map, you know where you're going, you know how to get there. Also let somebody know when and where you're going and what time you're supposed to get back. It's always nice for people to actually know where you are at any given time.
Yeah, I've definitely done that before where I've gone hiking and then done kind of a questionable hike and then realized I didn't tell anyone where I was and I don't have cell service right now.
Yeah.
So it's like if I get lost on this poorly marked trail, no one knows where I am. I do think that's like a very helpful tip that you might not think of right away of like, oh, I'm going out, I might not have cell service. Someone should know where I am.
Yes. Yeah, especially because, a lot of places around here, they're beautiful, they're awesome, but they sometimes do get a little remote, and cell service does drop quite frequently depending on where you're at.
Yeah.
And, I think something else that you hinted on that was interesting, a good pair of socks. You don't really think about that, because like for me, like if I go hiking, I have some hiking boots, but tennis shoes, but, good pair of socks, and also pre-planning ahead is really important. Those are some things that, you don't always think of. And especially whether you're in some of our trails or our parks throughout the county, we have a lot of maps and resources online or at different visitor centers. So you definitely want to pre-plan ahead for that as well.
Yeah, and then if you don't have a good pair of socks, having a good first aid kit.
Right, yes. Yeah, blisters are a thing.
Yeah, even with good shoes and good socks, if your feet aren't calloused up yet, blisters will happen.
Right. Well, and on that front, you want to start a little bit on the easier side. You don't ever want to just like jump straight into the most challenging, difficult, straight up the mountain kind of endeavor that, you always want to ease into it and then kind of see where your limit is and then, start working your way up on to hiking up to McAfee's Knob or something along those lines. Yeah,
I think a lot of people, when they come to the area, they're like, yeah, I want to hike around here. Let's do McAfee's Knob, even though I haven't hiked in 10 years or I haven't ever hiked. And it's like, maybe we don't start with McAfee's Knob.
Yeah.
Yeah. Easing into it definitely sounds like the better option. But it's nice for us who live here and, work here. It's nice because we have a lot of different options within the county.
Yeah. Speaking of the options within the county, do you want to talk about some of the trails out at Explore Park? Because I know those are some of our easier trails that also we have great maps for.
Sure. If you're hiking out at Explore Park, I personally like getting down towards the river and then hiking along that trail that's right there. It meanders nicely. It's relatively flat. There's not a lot of elevation change. There's not a lot of rocks and roots and things you got to climb over. And, it's a really nice little out and back, especially if you're starting from the park, or, if you're familiar with the area and you go down to Rootroff Point, you can start there and go into the park and then come back. One thing that you do need to be aware of is if you are in Explore Park, you will have to hike down and then hike back up if you are going just about anywhere as far as the trails are concerned. So there will always be some sort of uphill, regardless if that's at the beginning or the end. But you can find a lot of nice little loops. But I would say, if I was going to recommend it to someone, is go and drive down to Journey's End. And then it's a relatively short walk from that parking lot down to the river trail, and then just hike along that way. And then that way, once you come back, it's not, a super crazy uphill hike to get back to your car. And so that's what I would suggest if anybody was coming out to Explore Park for the first time.
So other than Explore Park, I have a couple places that I want to highlight, but are there any things that stand out for you of like easier hikes in the county?
I will say, having just come back to Parks, Rec, and Tourism in the county, I'm still really getting a handle on like knowing all of the ins and outs of the different parks. So I'm interested to see what it is that you have, because I've got a couple things that I may be eyeing, but I haven't actually had time to get out and try those things out yet.
Okay. Yeah. The next one I had that's also a county park is Green Hill Park, which is on the other side of the county than Explore Park. And in my mind, that one's nice because it has both the greenways and a couple shorter trails. So if you're kind of easing your way in and you want to start on the greenway, like build a little confidence in just like walking around, not on sidewalks, like outside, like you can start on the greenway and then move into the Paw Paw Trail. And I think it's the Meadow Trail is the other one. And there's another couple small trails that are marked really well out there. Yeah. Alex, have you done any of those?
I have not done those, but I've walked the Greenway multiple times while I was out there, growing up in Roanoke County. I played soccer out there, played baseball. So, the Greenway and the trails have always been a popular part of that park. And it's really cool, especially going out to Green Hill, because on a day, we got Touch a Truck coming up. We'll touch on that later, but on that day, you'll have Touch a Truck, which is one of our largest community events in Roanoke County. You have athletics that are going on in the back portion of the park. You have community members who walk their dogs or ride their bikes along that portion of the Greenway. And then you also have members of the community who take part in access in some of those trails along the hillside on that portion, like the Paw Paw Trail. So it's really cool because that park is one of our largest parks, but also there's a lot of different users and ways to use that park, especially from a trails perspective.
Yeah, that's one of the things that I like about like Explore Park and Green Hill Park is that, if you want to do a little hiking, you can, but if you also want to, spend time with family, Explore Park has a playground, Green Hill Park has all those fields, and like you can, in your backpack that you have with all of your water packed for your hike because you're well prepared, like you could pack a lunch too and, do trails and then put a blanket out on the fields and have a nice lunch and, really make an afternoon of it. So if you're doing even like these shorter hikes, it doesn't have to be like, okay, we did 40 minutes of hiking, now what? It's like, well, now we have a nice snack and we enjoy, spending time with our family, like make a whole activity of it where the whole activity isn't just all hiking.
Yeah, it's really cool. And I know, me and Ryan were talking the other day, and we have a lot of different Greenway connections in the county as well. Wolf Creek Greenway in Vinton goes in between two of our county parks, Stonebridge Park and Good Park. And then we've also got Hanging Rock Battlefield Trail, which is actually outside of our Parks and Rec office over in Salem. And we're actually finishing up some renovations for that just occurred. So a little bit more trail widening and some more stone dust on that little section of trail that's really popular as well. So we've got a lot of different options in Roanoke County, just not on the trail side, but the Greenway side as well.
Yeah. So back to Green Hill Park and the Paw Paw Trail. I had a little note here to talk about pawpaws because I think they're very interesting. Do you know what a pawpaw is?
Vaguely familiar. My environmental education and naturalist skills are okay. So I've heard a lot of people talk about pawpaws. I know that they grow on certain sections in certain areas. Like I know along the James River because my kayak instructor used to point those out all the time when we'd be out there. So again, passing familiarity. I couldn't tell you right like the genus and the species and all this other stuff. But
I've heard of them, and I've heard it's a fruit, right?
Yeah, it's the largest fruit that's native to the United States.
Interesting.
And yeah, they grow pretty commonly around here along riverbanks. The soil does well for them, that like water level. But they're not widely cultivated in America, even though they're so common, because they have like no shelf life. So like you pick them and they go bad so quickly.
Interesting.
And I was like trying leading into this to be like, it would be very funny to like secure pawpaw and like make them eat it and just try it because I've never had it before. But they ripen in September, which it is unfortunately not yet. So nowhere has it. And the only place I could find that, and you can't dry it out because it's got a neurotoxin in it that's apparently like heating it like that makes it worse. So that's great. And yeah, the only place I found it that like had something that was pawpaw based was this really niche bakery in Maryland, and they unfortunately do not ship their pawpaw jam. I know. I really tried, guys.
We're out of luck.
Yeah. Next time it comes up, I'll find a way. But then another hike that I really like that's kind of in that part of the county, it's actually not too far from Green Hill Park, is Poor Mountain. Have you ever been up there?
I have also not been up on Poor Mountain. Well, sorry, let me clarify. I have been on Poor Mountain. I just have not been to that particular trail system.
We used to actually do some programming up there, some different nature hikes and different things like that, 4 or 5 years ago. So I remember it. I've been there. I've seen it in our guides, but I've never been actually.
Yeah, it's real nice because it's not maintained by Roanoke County. It's maintained by the Department of Conservation, which is wonderful to have them working in the county as well. But it is a nature preserve protecting pirate bush, which Poor Mountains, that trail system up there, has the largest collection of pirate bush in the U.S. They have a really interesting thing on there. This is from their website, their little printout. It says, the much-branched shrub could be easily overlooked if it were not for its pale green foliage, which is one indication of its parasitic nature. By tapping into root systems of neighboring plants, pirate bush requires less chlorophyll than most plants, thus its lighter color. Found in only a few locations in Virginia, Tennessee, and North Carolina, pirate bush is considered one of the rarest shrubs in eastern North America. It thrives on Poor Mountain, which has more individual shrubs than any other known populations combined.
Wow. So we've learned two things today, Ryan. We've learned about pawpaws and pirate bush.
Yeah, you're going to get educated. So on Poor Mountain, they have 2 trails, one of which is aptly named the Pirate Bush Trail, which is a nice, easy 1-mile loop and takes you through the main section of their pirate bush, so you can, go and observe. And they have a lot of other native species that are on the trail, so if you have one of those, trail finding apps that shows you, like, what different foliage is in the area and what different plant species, I use Seek. That's a really great place to go out and look for different flowers and different plants that are out in the area. And that trail is almost all flat, so it is a nice, easy one. It doesn't have an overlook, but the larger loop on Poor Mountain, because you're actually up and hiking down, the overlook's pretty close to where the 2 trails split. So if you do the loop and you feel like you're ready for a little bit more, you can actually head the other direction. And then the overlook's about a mile further. So you can just do the overlook and you don't have to do the full 3-4 mile trail loop that the other one is. So it's got options for your easy hiking.
Okay.
Are you convinced to go out?
Yes, I am. And one thing I did notice looking down at your sheet there, so I did visit the website earlier, and I also printed one off, but I noticed that on the trail legend, all of the hash marks to indicate what a trail are the same, and if you don't print that map in color, it's going to be really easy not to know exactly where you're going.
Yes, I'm a big fan of black and white printing, but if you are printing it in black and white, you better highlight which ones are the right color.
Just a little something that I happen to notice.
Yeah,
Either that, I'm big on screenshotting maps or places I'm going.
Yeah.
So you might want to take a screenshot on your phone, because even if you don't have service, you can still reference that.
Yeah, that's something I do too, because a lot of places around here, you're going to lose service. So not having it loaded on a website or in an app and actually having a copy that's saved on your phone is very helpful.
But yeah, I think, as far as some of those other trails, something else, have you guys been to Happy Hollow Gardens before?
I have not.
That's something else we'll have to touch base on in the spring, because there's a trail system up there. It's in southern Roanoke County, and in the spring, we have the azalea trail, and the azaleas bloom. It's just beautiful, and a lot of folks go up there. A lot of folks on Instagram do their reels and get some really cool photos up there in the spring, and that's another trail that we can add to the list.
Green jackets required if the azaleas are in bloom, right, Alex?
Yes, for sure.
Is there any other parks or hikes that you can think of, Alex, that are nice, easy ones for people?
Something that we have that is relatively new or an expansion is our South County trail system. We cut the ribbon on the extension for Arbor Day back in April, and so that's located within 3 of our county parks and near South County Library. So you can park at South County Library, either Starkey Park North or Starkey Park South, or Merriman Soccer Complex. You have a lot of different options, and that trail is a 1.1 mile trail. It's if you start from Merriman and go all the way to South County Library, there's a boardwalk kind of in a nature wetland area that's really cool and scenic as well. So that's a different option for folks to utilize. And like I said, the extension just opened this past April, and we've had a lot of park usage there. And a lot of the folks in the South County community utilize that trail, to walk their dogs, or it intertwines between some ball fields. So in the fall and spring, and you're going to see either baseball or softball going on, or soccer, and then some summer camps in the summer as well. So it's a really busy area in the Merriman and South County community over there. That's a relatively new extension and a really popular trail system that we have in the county.
And now, I think if we have all talked about our easy trails to hike, we can talk about some events going on at Parks and Rec.
Yeah, so I'll kind of go in chronological order for what we got coming up in September. First off, we'll start off with Pooches in the Pool, which is coming up on Saturday, September 7th. This is our second year having that at Splash Valley Water Park, because the water park closes Labor Day weekend, and so the weekend after we have our Pooches in the Pool. So dogs who are less than 25 pounds can come between 11 and 1, and then dogs over 25 pounds can come from 1:30 to 3:30. So pre-registration is required in advance, and folks can go online to RoanokeCountyParks.com to register for themselves and their dog. It's either a $10 admission fee, or you can get in for free with a donation item to RCACP, helping our friends over there. And then we have Food Truck Thursdays. That has already started, and we'll have that going through with our fall lineup of food trucks. That is the second and fourth Thursday of every month. So, and that's on a rotation between Walburn Park, Merriman Soccer Complex, and Green Hill Park. And so that's been a really successful event we've had over the last year, and we're looking forward to eat local and take a nice lunch break in some of our parks that have trails as well. So that's going to be fun. And then Tavern Stage Summer Music Series, that wraps up at Explore Park coming up on September 13th with Empty Bottles. They're like a yacht rock cover band, so we're looking forward to having them. They were actually at Explore Park for last year's series, and they're back closing it out up at the Brew Pub on September 13th. And then we have Touch a Truck, which I know we talked on the last podcast about, but due to some of the Hurricane Debbie issues and preparedness and just precautions, we had to delay that to September 21st. So hopefully it'll be a little bit cooler, and we'll have about 100 trucks or more and different vehicles from around the region for kids to experience, learn about, and actually get up in those vehicles and be able to talk to the operators at Green Hill Park, on September 21st from 10 to 3. So we're looking forward to having that. And then we round out September with the Bent Mountain Fall Festival. That's coming up on Saturday, September 28th, and the family fun and the festival will take place from 12 to 5. We'll have some local vendors, some local artisan vendors. We'll have a blacksmithing demos, petting zoo, inflatables, children's activities. It's going to be a great day up at Bent Mountain. And then we'll close that out that evening from 5 to 7 with live music for the Oktoberfest celebration with the Sauerkraut Band. So it's going to be a live music, fun day of full activities up at Bent Mountain. So September is really, really packed as we kick off fall operations.
Yeah, I was about to say September, in my opinion, is one of the most perfect months in Virginia because the temperatures are cool, the weather's pretty consistently nice, and so it sounds like a great lineup of events to ring in the fall. We're starting to wrap up the episode, but last month you challenged me as my monthly challenge to go out to Treetop Quest. And I went out last weekend. I took my husband. He heard about it on the podcast and was like, wait, I want to come too. So we went out together, and it was actually a lot of fun. I know I was a little hesitant going into it because it's been more than a decade since I've been on any sort of like ropes and zip lining courses. But it was real fun. It's funny because I would describe myself as small and nimble, and my husband is larger and more muscular. So I was like, I wonder how this is gonna work out between the two of us. But we were pretty like equally able to handle all of the courses, like all of the obstacles. There were things that like I would just run through and like he'd struggle with, or there's things like he was stronger than me and could get through more easily that I'd be like teetering on. So it was real fun.
Yeah, Treetop, you conquered that challenge. Are you afraid of heights, or like since you hadn't done it in a while, were you afraid of heights, or was it just kind of the unknown of what each element was going to bring?
I think it was like more of the unknown, and we had walked through it a couple weeks before, and I was like, okay, like this isn't too high off the ground, so I wasn't as worried about that. But it was just like there were a lot of things where it's like oh, that thing is wobbly, or oh, there are literally like punching bags hanging in my way.
Those aerial obstacles will get you, but it's nice because you're safely harnessed in with the continuous belay system at all times.
Yeah, there was the one with like the skinny punching bags. I was just like, you know what, I'm gonna run through this one. And like my husband was ahead of me, and I literally just bolted through on the obstacle. My husband was like, wow, you just Derrick Henry'd that. And I was like, yeah.
Nice reference.
Okay, so that was my challenge for last month. Ryan, you're new to this, so the idea is one of you comes up with something in Roanoke County that I've never done before, and I'll do it before the next episode. So if Alex had something in mind.
Yeah, I'll go first. You think about that. I've got one. It's kind of a layup.
Okay.
And I'll give this one to you. So have you attended one of our Food Truck Thursday events coming up?
I have not.
So I challenge you to, between now and the next episode, head out to one of our parks for one of the upcoming Food Truck Thursdays. So you'll not only be able to take your lunch break out at one of our parks, but enjoy some local food from some local food vendors in the region.
I do love a good food truck, so I will accept that challenge. I'm interested to see if Ryan has anything.
Let's see. We've got a paddling trip coming up.
A paddling trip.
And so we're going to do some kayaking out on the James River. So not technically Roanoke County. However, still, like, we're going to meet at Explore Park. We'll get based out of there, all that jazz. And so if you are interested, we've got some kayaking potential happening here. I want to say the trip's going to be in September, but I've also got to do a dry run. And so if you would like to potentially come on said dry run, so that we can iron out, make sure we've got everything all set and ready to go.
Ooh.
Right?
I would love to potentially come on.
We can get some kayaking happening.
Yeah, let's do that. All right. Thank you both for being on this month. Hopefully we inspired a few wary people to get out and hike.
Hey, thank you for having me here. And then, I hope to hopefully see some folks out on the trails. I'm at Explorer Park Wednesday through Sunday every single week. So more than often than not, I will be out on the trail at some point in time, any of those given days. Hopefully I'll happen to catch somebody who's catch the podcast episode here and, get a little hiking information in. That'd be great.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks as always for having us. Looking forward to a full month of September for Parks, Recreation, and Tourism events, and seeing what fall has in store for us as a department.
Yeah, it sounds great. Thank you for listening. If you liked this episode, be sure to share it with a friend, especially if you're looking to drag someone out hiking. And I'll be back next month to help you plan your next out-of-the-office adventures. Happy exploring!